My name is Emily, and I have a story to share, a story that may surprise some of you and perhaps even make others question my choices. But this is my truth. It's a truth I've kept to myself for so long. And now I've finally decided it's time to be honest. To start, no, this isn't some wild tale of reckless actions or shocking scandal. This is a story about love, isolation, and how a simple connection went horribly wrong. Let me take you back to the beginning. My husband Mark and I had been married for nearly 10 years. We met when we were both just out of college. He was driven, charismatic, and the kind of man who could step into any room and capture everyone's attention immediately. I fell for him quickly, and the early days of our relationship were like something out of a fairy tale. Everything felt perfect. But fast forward a few years, and life wasn't as perfect anymore. Mark's job kept him away. More and more. He was always traveling for work, business trips, meetings, conferences, you name it. I understood how important his job was, but the distance started to take a toll on our marriage. We became distant, hardly talking for days at a time, and when we did talk, it was just the usual stuff. How was your day? What's for dinner? But underneath it all, I felt alone. I was craving attention, companionship, and someone to fill the emptiness Mark had unknowingly left in my life. That's when things started to shift. We lived on a quiet piece of land, on the outskirts of town. One of the reasons we'd moved there was for the space and the chance to have animals. We had some chickens, a few goats, and, of course, our horse Thunder. Thunder was a majestic, strong black horse with a gentle nature that seemed to understand emotions better than most people. I had always loved horses, and Thunder was something special. He was a gift from Mark for our 5th wedding anniversary. A way for him to show he cared, even though he couldn't always be around. During the long, lonely days when Mark was away, Thunder became my comfort. I'd spent hours with him in the barn, brushing him, talking to him, and just enjoying his company. I know. It sounds strange, but animals can sense when something's wrong. Thunder always seemed to know when I was feeling down, and he'd nudge me with his nose as if saying, "I'm here. You're not alone." Over time, those moments with Thunder became the best part of my day. I found myself talking to him about things I couldn't share with Mark. Thunder was always patient, never judged me, and was always there when I needed him. It was like he had become the emotional support I had been missing. I can hear you now. How could I compare a horse to my husband? But you have to understand. Mark was absent and Thunder was there for me. Then one summer evening, everything changed. Mark was away as usual and I was feeling especially down. I'd just gotten off the phone with him and once again, it felt like we were living completely separate lives. I walked out to the barn, hoping to find some peace with Thunder. As I brushed his coat, I started talking to him as I always did. But this time something felt different. I started venting about how lonely I felt, how disconnected I was from Mark. I was rambling, without even thinking about it, when suddenly I realized that I was speaking about Thunder in a way that made my heart race. I froze, shook my head. I couldn't believe it. I laughed it off and told myself, "Emily, you're being ridiculous. Thunder is just a horse. Even though he's a beautiful, majestic one, but still just a horse." I tried to push the strange thoughts aside. But as the days went by, I found myself going to the barn more often, staying longer, and feeling an even stronger connection to Thunder. I felt guilty. How could I be so emotionally attached to an animal when I had a husband? But the more I tried to ignore it, the more that connection grew. Thunder was always there for me and Mark. Well, Mark wasn't. The truth is, I wasn't cheating, the way you might think. There was no physical affair, no secret lover. But emotionally, I had crossed a line. I had started sharing things with Thunder that should have been shared with my husband. Then one evening, everything came crashing down. Mark came home early from one of his trips. I didn't hear him pull into the driveway, and I was in the barn, as usual, with Thunder. I didn't realize how much time I had spent there, how much I had become absorbed in this strange emotional attachment. When Mark walked into the barn. He found me standing next to Thunder, whispering softly to him. I didn't hear him until it was too late. What are you doing? Mark's voice was sharp, full of confusion and suspicion. His eyes moved between me and Thunder, trying to figure out what was happening. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know what to say. How could I explain this without sounding completely crazy? Mark stood there staring at me, waiting for an explanation. But I didn't even know how to explain it myself. The silence in the barn stretched on, only broken by the sound of Thunder softly snorting, completely unaware of the storm that had just entered. Emily, what the hell is going on? Mark asked again, his voice now a mix of anger and confusion. He stepped closer, narrowing his eyes as if trying to understand the scene in front of him. I stepped back instinctively, placing my hand on Thunder's side as if he could somehow protect me from what was coming. It's not what you think, Mark, I stammered. But even I wasn't sure what he thought yet. Mark shook his head, clearly not convinced. Then, tell me, he said, because I come home early and find you here whispering to a horse like he's. I don't even know what. What am I supposed to think? I took a deep breath, trying to figure out how to explain the emotional bond one had developed with Thunder without sounding completely crazy. Mark, you've been gone so much lately, I began, already seeing the frustration growing in his eyes. I know it's your job and I know you're working hard for both of us, but I've been lonely. And Thunder? He's been here for me. He's listened when I had no one else to talk to. He threw his hands up in frustration. He's a horse, Emily. You're talking like he's a person. I winced at his words but couldn't deny that he was right. I know, I whispered. But he was there when you weren't. I started talking to him because I didn't have anyone else. It just got out of hand. Mark looked at me, his expression a mixture of disbelief and hurt. So what? You're saying you had an emotional affair with a horse? The word sounded absurd even to me, but the situation wasn't as far-fetched as it seemed. I didn't mean for it to happen, I said quietly, feeling tears welling in my eyes. I was just so lonely, Mark. I needed someone to talk to and Thunder was there. He shook his head again, clearly struggling to make sense of everything. So what are you telling me? That you love him? That you'd rather be with him than me? His voice cracked slightly and I could hear the hurt beneath the anger. No, of course not, I quickly replied, stepping forward and reaching for his hand. I love you, Mark, but I was lonely and I made a mistake. I let my emotions get the better of me. And I turned to Thunder when I should have turned to you. He pulled his hand away, pacing back and forth in the small barn. This is insane. I come home, and this is what I find. My wife confessing some kind of emotional affair with a horse. I stood there helplessly, not knowing how to fix the situation. Mark, please, it wasn't like that, I begged. I didn't do anything physical, nothing inappropriate. I got lost in the loneliness. For a moment he didn't say anything. He just stood there, his back turned to me as he tried to collect his thoughts. Then finally he spoke. Do you know how crazy this sounds, Emily? How ridiculous this whole situation is. I nodded, my voice barely above a whisper. No, but it's the truth. I let my loneliness cloud my judgment. And I'm sorry. I never meant for it to get this far. Mark turned to face me, his expression softening just a little. Why didn't you talk to me? Why didn't you tell me you were feeling this way? I tried, I said, my voice trembling. But every time I brought it up, you were too busy, too tired, or just distracted. And eventually I gave up. I thought maybe this was just how things were going to be. So I found comfort in Thunder. And I know that sounds ridiculous. But he was there for me in a way you weren't. He sighed heavily, running a hand through his hair. I didn't know you felt this way, I thought we were fine. We weren't, I replied softly. But I didn't want to burden you with it. You were always so busy with work. And I didn't want to seem needy. But the truth is I needed you, Mark. I needed my husband. And when you weren't there, I turned to Thunder. There was a long silence between us, Both of us standing there, the weight of everything hanging in the air. Finally, Mark spoke again, his voice much softer. I don't know what to do with this, Emily. I don't know how to move forward from here. I took a deep breath, feeling the tears spill down my cheeks. I don't either, I admitted. But I want to fix this. I want to fix us. I love you, and I don't want to lose you. Mark looked at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of pain and uncertainty. I love you too, Emily. But this is going to take time. I nodded, understanding how serious the situation was. No. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make things right. He sighed again, finally stepping closer to me. We need to talk about this. Really talk about everything. Not just Thunder, but us. Where we went wrong and how we can fix it. I nodded, reaching out to take his hand again. This time I felt him squeeze it back. I'm ready to talk, Mark. I'm ready to make things right. As we stood there in the bar in the air, heavy with the weight of our conversation, I realized that this was the first step in fixing what had been broken. It wouldn't be easy, and it wouldn't happen overnight. But for the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. And with that, Emily and Mark began the long process of healing their marriage, learning to reconnect, and rediscovering the love that had once brought them together.